considered the greatest regular season quarterback, but as of late, he is struggling. Manning has completed fewer than 20 passes in 3 consecutive games and this is only the second time it's happened in his career. So let's just take a look. The area where Manning has especially struggled has been the red zone. After leading the league in red zone completion percentage, touchdown passes, and total QBR in his first 11 games, Manning ranks outside the top 20 in all 3 categories over the last 3 games. John Gruden on what's going on with Peyton Manning.
Are you seeing anything different in Peyton Manning as you watch the film?
Well, I tell you where it starts is the St. Louis Rams film. The St. Louis Rams got after the Broncos. They hit Peyton Manning a lot. He might be a little sore. I know last week against the Chargers, he had the flu. He was up all night. He wasn't 100%. But there's a good chance he's either been sick or he's been banged up. It could be a combination of who they've seen, the coverages that they have seen, and perhaps Peyton Manning is sick or a little bit beat up this time of year.
All right, we welcome in our NFL analyst, Jeff Saturday. You have intimate knowledge of one Peyton Manning. So do you believe that it's a health issue or just the offensive scheme?
No, I think what Gruden said is probably pretty dead on. I mean, we're talking about, a 38-year-old guy late in the season playing some pretty decent defenses, guys getting after him. Under the weather, you knew he was sick last week. But ultimately, I don't think it really matters. I think this is better for this football team. And it sounds crazy to say that, but I think that's reality. Because if you go play in New England for the playoffs, which is a strong possibility, you better be able to run the football. And so they're building a team that is going to be more difficult to beat in the long run. You don't necessarily have to depend on Peyton Manning and this receiving core or making a big play. If you're in the red zone, run the football. That's what good red zone teams do. They run that football. They make you honor it. They don't let you sit there and play back and just play the back end of the end zone. You can run the football. You're a more effective football team. So whether it's injury, whether it's illness, whether, he's not playing up to par right now, whatever those things are, I think this is making the Denver Broncos a better football team in the long run. If you look at when I was with the Colts and when we won the Super Bowl, we ran the football. We went to Baltimore. We kicked 5 field goals. It wasn't just about
really
Peyton
ran
Manning.
It that day.
Yeah, we ran it. In the Super Bowl against the Bears, 190-plus yards. We ran the football because we were dedicated to it. And I know Bill Polian loves to tell you, he tells Peyton Manning all the time, run the ball. It doesn't always have to be about the passing attack. And I think as you're looking at this team, the way they played defense this year, and they will continue to play defense. Jack Del Rio, I have a ton of respect for him. Played against him a long time when he was in Jacksonville. This guy knows how to build a defense, and he's built a pretty solid one. So as you're looking at it, we talk about it all the time, complementary football. That's what you do. Run the football, keep your defense out there, keep them fresh. Keep the defense off the field and keep them fresh, let them go play with wild abandonment. I think this is a better football team for it.
Does he look banged up to you at all?
Last week, the Rams got after. The Rams are good now. I mean, we talked about something. They played Buffalo. They played some good defenses. So the Rams did get after him, and they hit him a bunch. And so, but last week, you could just tell he just wasn't feeling. He just wasn't feeling, and it happens. Whether it's the flu, you're up all night, whatever those things are, that happens. And so, was he his sharpest? No. As you look at that thing, but I think that's being real. And I think about when you think about Peyton, everybody expects the 55 touchdowns, all the. They're 4-0 in the last 4 games. I mean, what do you go? He's 67% completion rate in the last. Can't be too upset. I mean, there's a lot of teams in the NFL would like a 67% Peyton Manning to lead their football team. So I think sometimes we see the numbers, not the touchdowns or the passing attempts. So yeah, you get excited on the statistics instead of we're winning football games and putting this team where it needs to be.
C.J. Anderson over the last 4 games since that St. Louis game. 27 carries, 32 carries, 21 carries, then last week 29 carries. After the St. Louis loss, you understand why C.J. Anderson got the ball. 27 carries, 167 yards. The next game against Kansas City, 32 carries for 168 yards.
Yeah.
But over the last 2 games against Buffalo and San Diego, he has averaged less than 3 yards a carry. Yeah. In my estimation, there is no way on earth that you're running the football that much with a running back that's averaging less than 3 yards a carry, with Peyton Manning as your center, with Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas, and now Julius Thomas being back as your targets. You are not running the football that much unless Peyton Manning is not healthy. I don't believe that for 1 second. That's just my personal belief. I believe that somewhere along the line, if you're not running the ball effectively, that man's going to put the football in the air. And so for me, I think it's smart. I agree with everything that you said, because to go up in Foxborough, you got to be able to run the football. You got to be able to beat. In order for you to beat New England, you are not going to be able to beat New England throwing the football.
That's right.
You're going to have to run the football. It's just that simple. And for me, I understand Peyton Manning and what he's doing, but this is where I think, and I'm going to another level. I'm sitting here wondering, based on what I'm seeing from Peyton Manning over the last several weeks since he was beat up pretty good by St. Louis when they lost 22-7. I'm wondering if Peyton Manning wins the Super Bowl if he calls it quits. I'm wondering about that.
You don't think so, because you've said before you think he's got, I don't know, like 3 more good years left, right?
I think he's going to ride it. He loves this game.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. I mean, you could be right.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, you know, he was feeling great, but you know, when you get that age, once you start feeling bad, it booms, it comes out of nowhere.
I'll say this about the run game too, and Mark Schlereth has said this, a bunch on air. You expose the Broncos' offensive line when they have to drop back and throw it around the whole time. They are a much better offensive line when you are mixing in this, a dominant type power run game, banging it up in there, being able to zone block, being able to double team, being able to pull and trap, all those things. They do that better than just dropping back 40 times. Yeah. And we saw that exposure against the Rams.
Obviously, as you point out with your numbers, since that Ram debacle, during which Peyton threw 54 passes, and they ran it only 10 times and lost 22-7 at St. Louis. And again, no shame in that, because that's a really good defense. But since then, they've rushed it 148 times to only 111 pass attempts. But I got to back up Peyton Manning on what happened Sunday at San Diego. There is no way they win that football game if he doesn't suck it up at halftime and say, I am going to play the second half whether my coach wants me to or not. And
totally
it appeared
agree.
His coach did not want him to play.
Totally agree.
We know about whatever the stomach virus or illness was. There was something about a thigh contusion. I don't know what it was. And then I still have some issues of late about his arm. If he's having some arm issue, if he got a shoulder banged up or what. Because, listen, he threw 3. I watched this game closely. He threw 3 balls in the second half that looked like baseball pitchers' slip pitches, like a changeup. When it left his hand, I said, did that ball slip out of his hand?
Right.
And it went right down, dropped right down the chimney to Demarius for like a 35-yard game, or to Emmanuel for a 38-yard game. Just beautiful throws, like pinpoint passes. They didn't have any juice on them. They didn't have any mustard, but they sure got where they were supposed to be. He let go of the ball, like 4 seconds before the guy came out of his break, like telepathy, you know how that goes. Yeah. Okay, so I look at what happened. Peyton hit 14 of 20 in this game, only 20 attempts, but it was for 233 yards, and his QBR for the game, again, scale of 0 to 100, was 93.
Right.
This is at San Diego in the big division battle, do or die for the San Diego Chargers. And you have a QBR of 93? Well, it's one of the great halves Peyton Manning has ever played in his life. I'm not exaggerating that. Under the circumstances, as they hang in there for home field advantage against their arch rival in division, to come out and do that in the second half, it was special to me. And again, I don't care if he is beat up, he still makes Peyton-esque throws when they really count. And this is just me, Jeff, and I hear everything you said about running the ball, but I remind you of the game up at Foxborough. It was mid-year last year that went to overtime. Do you remember this game?
Yeah.
Okay, Noshawn was there. Noshawn rushed from, off the top of my head, it was like 224 in that game. And Belichick was just saying, go ahead, run him again. Peyton is not going to beat us in this football game. And I think it was, I'm off the top of my head, but it was like 31-30 in overtime.
Right.
Welker dropped the punt. Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. So my point is, when I am rooting against Peyton, I'm more like, go ahead, run the ball. I just don't want him to throw it because, like good, bad stuff happens for Denver. Bad stuff for me happens when he's throwing the heck out of the football. They are so explosive when he gets going. So to me, when he's hot, they are virtually unbeatable. When they are running the ball as many times as they've been running it, they get more beatable to me. That's just me.
Well, you know, when I'm kind of crossing both of your points. When you talk about the run per yard, the run per carry average coming down, that's because guys are bringing more players in the box. You talk about big plays because more guys are in the box. You're going to get more one-on-one coverage on the back end of defenses. So Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas, you know, Emmanuel, they can make those plays. So as you're talking about it, understand one works with the other, right? If you're bringing more guys to stop the run because you're believing that Denver is going to do, and you're only getting 20 balls thrown by Peyton Manning, so now you want to crowd the box, right? So you're getting guys down in there. Okay, now we got explosive plays. If everybody's dropping back and playing 4 and 2, which means there's a big zone in the backfield, it's tough to get big plays. You got to check the ball down. You have to be more patient. So one does complement the other when you're talking about explosive plays and being able to run the football.
All right. I know that we're going to have you stick around here for the next topic.